The Ugandan market is still overwhelmed with substandard products. A report from the Uganda National Bureau of Standards indicated that 54% of the both imported and domestic produced products are substandard as of 2017, and up to date the status quo has remained. Dr. David Livingstone, the Executive Director, Uganda National Bureau of Standards, and Honorable Mwine Mpaka, the Chairperson, Parliamentary Committee on Trade, attributes the failure to limited resources to check the system.
So there has been the issue of the budget. What does UNBS need to be able to fulfill its mandate? A UNBS budget has been reducing over time, despite the increase in the need for UNBS to contribute to the protection of the citizens and to contribute to market access of our products to international markets.
Well, we have a big challenge with UNBS because they lack resources. First of all, we have only one lab, and it's found in Kampala. This means if you are to test a product at the border, you'd have to drive it all the way to Kampala, which would take about 1 day. Test it, take it back to the border, it will take about 4 days. So we need regional laboratories. On top of that, we are understaffed.
Recently, the civil society organizations urged the government to prioritize staff recruitment in a phased approach in order to improve inspection, supervision, and the training of the business community on standards compliance, which Dr. Livingstone confirmed.
A part of the money we want is to recruit staff. As we are aware, we have a number of porous borders where actually substandard products pass. We need to close those porous borders by putting staff there. On the market, we need to make sure that we are on the market to ensure that every product that does not meet the safety requirements is removed from the market.
On top of that, we are understaffed. The scientists we have are not present in all the regions. You saw what happened in Arua the other day when someone made alcohol without certification and people died. So we are understaffed. Even the money to transport even our scientists to go to the field is not available.
Dr. Livingstone repeated that they phased out some of the fees that had previously been imposed on enterprises seeking to satisfy their goods.
UNBS has reduced its cost structure for certification over time in consideration that our role is not money-making but to promote compliance to standards. So the private sector is aware of our intervention of reducing the cost of certification. We have also offered up to 600 free permits to make sure that these small enterprises who are struggling to get money for certification are given a UNBS quality mark to be able to put the product on the market, make money so that going forward they are able to sustain the payment of our quality.
According to the auditor's report 2021, out of the approved staff structure of 666 positions, the Bureau had only filed 439, leaving a staffing gap of 227. As a result, there was a staff presence at only 27 out of 170 border entry points. Hence, a risk of substandard products entering the country through border points where the Bureau staff is not present. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
Thank you so much for watching Smart 24 TV. And of course, that was Pedson Mumbere, our reporter there, reporting on the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Of course, this is a very key body when it comes to standards and quality in Uganda. And today I am privileged that I'm going to be joined by the Executive Director, and that is Mr. Livingstone Biru, and we are going to talk more on the subject. And stay tuned, and of course we shall get you ahead on the interview with Mr. Livingstone Biru. Hello ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the show. This is Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business, and this is The Point. And on The Point, of course, we get to talk about different players in business and industry here in Uganda. and of course bring on board experts, and of course as well as some of the most influential people when it comes to our economic growth and matters pertaining our, first of all, micro, small and medium enterprises, but as well large-scale businesses. And my name is Anthony Sebale, and I am your host. Remember to follow us on Twitter. That is at Smart24TV. And you can also follow me personally on at Anthony Sebale as well, and follow the matters here as they unfold. Now, the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, a body that is, of course, in charge of standards here in Uganda, is one of the key players when it comes to standards and quality of goods that are produced locally here in Uganda, but as well goods that are imported into the country. Now, for quite some time, there has been a lot of debate on matters concerning quality of goods produced in Uganda, especially going out as exports, but also on the matters of goods that are being imported into the country and the standards. Now, today, I'm very privileged to have a conversation with the Executive Director of the Bureau himself, Dr. Livingstone Ebiru. You're most welcome, Doctor, on the show.
Thank you, Anthony, for the opportunity and giving me a forum to discuss and create awareness to our business people, but most importantly to our consumer about the importance of quality standard in our lives and businesses.
Absolutely. Dr. David, let's start with, first of all, the mandate of the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. We know that different government ministries, departments, and agencies. Take a look at, for example, the National Drug Authority. We do have the National Standards Council, and a couple of others. The duties seem to be replicated somewhat. What makes Uganda National Bureau of Standards different from all the other agencies and departments?
I think what makes us unique, first of all, is the name itself. We are a Uganda National Standards Body. So meaning that any standard that ought to be implemented or complied with in the country, Uganda, must be sanctioned by Uganda National Bureau of Standards. So the rest are people who help us to enforce the standards, but the mandate of putting the standard that Ugandans want, the standards that can promote businesses in Uganda, is our responsibility. And we do that in consultation with the various sectors that have interest in standards, including the regulators, like you mentioned a few of them, but most importantly, the industry experts, because we write standards for the industries, we write standards for the private sector, and therefore the participation of the private sector, the academia, and the various regulators are key in writing these standards. So therefore, we are the custodians of Uganda standards, which are being implemented and enforced across the various sectors of the economy.
Yeah, interesting. Concerning the standards, we understand we do have the International Standards Organization. We do have organizations on the regional level and on the continental level. According to your experience at UNBS, are we on a journey for us to reach standards like the international standards? Because when you look at the local or domestic standards, we do set our own standards, but sometimes they don't conform to those international standards. Are we on a journey to that bigger picture or vision?
Just to clarify that Uganda National Bureau of Standards is a member of International Standards Organization with equal rights to determine and adopt the international standards that are relevant for Uganda. We are a member of the African Regional Standards Organization with the right to participate and adopt the relevant standards for our country, and so are we the members of the East African Community Standards Committee. So therefore, Uganda National Bureau of Standards is a local representative of regional and international standards organization, and therefore, the standards we implement in Uganda are in consultation of other regional and international standards. Remember, standards are meant to facilitate both trade, as you know, import trade and export trade. So it is therefore important that our standards are harmonized with the regional and international standard to be able to promote this free trade of goods and services. So if you look at our stock of standards, we are now talking of about 4,700 standards. Majority of these standards are actually international standards. but which have been adopted for Ugandan purposes, meaning that if we certify a product or if our exports comply to this international standard, they should freely go and access markets globally. A majority of these have now also been harmonized. In East Africa, we have harmonized our standards to be the common standards. So when we talk of Uganda standard, we are now talking of East African standard, meaning that any product that's certified against this standard should freely move within the East African community because it is one standard now for one market. So therefore, the Bureau is a representative of both regional and international standards, and we have equal ranking with any other international standards body. Yeah.
Recently, last year, the Uganda through UNBS was reappointed and the Codex company, where we now have the second term running. From 2020 to 2022, we were coordinating the Committee for Africa on the African side. And now we have been reappointed, in actual sense, to actually take the lead this time around again. What does this mean for Uganda, and especially in as far as standards and quality is concerned?
That's the opportunity Uganda has, first of all, to let the listeners know that Uganda National Bureau of Standards has taken leadership in the international standardization arena, beginning with the East African Standards Committee, which secretariat is based in Arusha. We are taking leadership there in terms of chairing committees involved in writing standards, harmonizing them. At the continental level, we sit in the board. The African Regional Standard Organization as a 12-member country representation of the 53 countries of Africa. So UNBS is among the 12 representing the whole continent of Africa in the board of the Continental Standards Body. So we have opportunity to be able to influence standardization work within the region and within the continent to be able to benefit Ugandans. So most of our standards actually are being used as base standards for the continent. And that's good news, meaning that if our manufacturers can comply with our national standards, they can easily comply with the continental standards, because we are now championing the need of having common standards for our common market, the African Continental Free Trade Area, which you are aware. We want to make sure that when a product made in Uganda is being exported to any country in Africa, nobody should question its safety and quality, because then it would have been certified and checked against the common standard by Uganda National Bureau of Standards. So this is a huge opportunity for us as a country.
Wow, interesting. Can you give us some examples of areas or products in which we are benchmarking actually standards?
The good news is that the East African community and the Africa at large trade in mostly common products. So our focus has been on food-related products. Food and agricultural standards has been key for us, because, you know, mostly Africa is the food basket. So agricultural-related products, and when we talk of agricultural-related products, we are talking of beef. I mean, we're talking of crop. We are talking of dairy products. We are talking of poultry products. We are talking of fish products. So these are the major crops we trade within the within the region and within the continent. So these are the standards we are championing, the harmonization on top of other standards that may follow. So we want to make sure that our comparative advantage in agricultural produce is taken advantage of, to make sure that these products, whether they are dairy related, whether they are crop related, and so forth, have common standards so that they are freely traded, because that's where the majority of the value addition is taking place. If you look at the value addition, processing and manufacturing, we are majorly doing agricultural value addition. And that's where the focus of standards harmonization is within the East African community and within the continent.
Still talking about standard harmonization in the East African community, there has been a lot of debate as well on matters concerning the trade between the East African countries. When you look at Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, just taking as an example, we have had instances where our products have been rejected by our very own in the region. on matters sometimes based on standards, sometimes based on other economic factors. Don't you think it is high time we had the harmonization actually brought up to speed, because we are still losing out in that matter?
I think just to clarify that if there is any service that we have actually integrated is the issue of standards. We have done our part as a regional standards body to harmonize the standards. Unfortunately, the issue of restrictions of trading among ourselves in our product has less to do with standards, because we have a mechanism of resolving issues of quality, technical measures. So the majority of those are beyond standards. And as you are aware, the recent leadership of Kenya has said now Ugandan products are open to come to Kenya. So it is as simple as that. So it has nothing to do with standard, but some other factors, which I think being resolved politically. Otherwise, there is no single reason why any product certified by a member standards body should be stopped from getting into this market, because we have a mutual recognition agreement with the regional standards bodies that once I've issued here a Q mark, a quality mark as Uganda National Bureau of Standards, nobody should actually question the quality of that product, because it has been certified against the common standards which all of us have assented to. So within the region, we have highly integrated and harmonized the common standards to allow our products freely trade. And the other factors should be handled beyond ourselves. Sure.
So, Mr. Livingston, there's an issue that currently is being tackled. That is the decentralization of standards, testing rather, laboratories. And so far, if I'm not mistaken, you have set up 2 laboratories, one in Gulu and one in Mbale City, and probably the Mbarara one is coming on our way very soon. Sure. Tell us about this project and what the brainchild behind this was.
I think one of the constraints we did recognize as a National Standard Bureau is access to standardization services by our people. We acknowledge that the value addition activities, the entrepreneurship, the industrialization, manufacturing is actually happening across the country. Unfortunately, for a long time, we had been having these standardization services centered in Kampala. Kampala is no longer the only monopoly of entrepreneurs or manufacturing and processing. It is now happening across the country. So as you are aware, we've opened industrial parks in all parts of the countries. If you go to northern Uganda, you have a beehive of activity, value addition activities. Eastern, the same. Western, the same. So we saw that it's very important that we move these services nearer to the people involved to reduce the cost of business, because imagine somebody traveling all the way from these regions to Kampala to seek these services. So we have since opened fully-fledged facilities where we can be able to certify products after testing them in our laboratories. For the Greater North, the facilities are based in Gulu. For the Greater East, the facility is based in Mbale. And as you have alluded, we are going to Mbarara this quarter to be able to open up the quality infrastructure for the Western region. That's not enough, but it's a good starting point to be able to move standardization services nearer to our people, so that we can be able to give people opportunity to put quality products on the market. Remember, if your products is not certified by UNBS and they are covered by compulsory standards, for example, food-related products and other consumer products, you will not have opportunity to sell them. We can't allow you to put them on the market. So the onus is on us to make sure that these facilities and services are readily available, so that we are not blamed for constraining and enforcing standards when they are not available or accessible. So we believe we have done our part. Apart from that infrastructure, we have also gone ahead to look at the issue of the costing. Over a long time, people are saying the cost of standardization, certification, and acquiring a quality mark is very costly. So what are you doing to help us? So we've tremendously reduced and subsidized the cost of certification for people to get certification. But also we have gone ahead through our partnership to actually offer free quality marks. We have certified up to 500 enterprises, especially micro, small, over the last quarter for free, meaning that somebody will pay on their behalf the overheads associated with UNBS going to offer this certification, visiting these factories, mentoring them, testing their product and buying the reagents and other overheads. So we partnered with the private sector foundation under the MasterCard project to be able to sponsor all these SMEs. So we want to make sure that we encourage them to actually comply to quality standards, because there is no option to access the market now unless your product is certified. As you're aware now, for example, for exports, much as we've negotiated very well to have quota-free and tariff-free markets in Europe, in America, in Asia, nobody is going to allow you free standards, free quality. So the quality standard remains a constant now for our exports to be able to compete. But we are saying that what is good for the outside must be good for us. So we are saying that even for local consumption, our product must meet the safety and quality requirements. So that's where we are going, and therefore the issue of compliance to standard is no longer an option, but a necessity for anybody involved in production and trade.
In this initiative of increasing the testing laboratories, the funding has partly come from the Danish government through the Trademark East Africa, and of course some part from the ministry as well. Tell us about this funding, especially from the Danish government. Is it a grant? Are we taking a loan out actually to fund these, or it's actually a grant from the government?
We want to thank the development partners who are complementing the resources of government to build in the quality infrastructure to facilitate trade. One of our major supporters has been Trademark East Africa through funding from the development partners you are mentioning, the Danish government and so forth. Their focus within the region is to facilitate trade, reducing the cost of doing business. And as you acknowledge, the issue of quality standard is a key component in trade, and therefore, if we can do as much as possible to reduce the cost of standardization, the cost of certification, the cost of access to quality standard, the more we can increase ease of doing business, the more we can reduce the cost of doing business. So these partners are contributing into that objective across the various sectors, and they deemed it necessary that quality standards, being a key facilitator for market access, should be looked at very closely. And we thank them for being able to support us with the special equipment to be able to set up laboratories for quality assurance and conformity assessment of our local products across the country, so that they're able to be on the market and people can be able to create jobs, pay the taxes we need, and build the foreign exchange for government through exports.
Interesting. According to your report for the 2021-2022 financial year, the jobs so far that had been actually created within the Uganda National Bureau of Standards were 444. That is short of the 640 jobs that are approved in the structure. I know very many young people would probably want to work in an institution like the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. And I understand the professionalism that has been exhibited and the experience people get from this institution is priceless. Talk about that shortage. Why aren't we yet achieving our target of 640 jobs?
As you appreciate, the Bureau is part of government. We are funded through the Consolidated Fund. Our challenges of resources remains the same like any other government department. Of course, as you acknowledge, the key input, the key resource the Bureau needs is in terms of staff. Because if you look at our current gaps, we are not able to cover all our borders, the gazetted borders, entry points, which importers are allowed to actually pass and bring imports into that country. Into this country. So that's a gap. Our desire is that we should close all borders, all entry points, to make sure that nobody can actually bypass us to bring any product that does not conform to the standard. So that is key. We still need resources to invest in manpower. We need resources for policing, for market surveillance on the product on the market. As I've told you, our desire is that everybody who puts a product on the market must make sure that it meets the minimum quality requirements and must be certified by the Bureau. So it's our responsibility to make sure that that is being done on the market. So I need the Bureau needs numbers to be able to make sure that we monitor the quality of products on the market. We inspect the factory outlets to make sure that these factories are actually producing products that we have certified. So those numbers are required. And again, as you have seen, we are now moving the Bureau beyond the city. It's no longer a Kampala-based institution. This should now be having regional presence. The West Nile region requires our presence as an office. Despite us moving to Gulu, we believe that West Nile deserves a separate regional office. Despite us going to Mbarara for the Western region, we believe that the Rwenzori area deserves another standards office to be able to take care of the needs of those regions. And this means that I need more staff to be able to open these regions and make sure that our presence really is optimal to be able to do what we are supposed to do. So the gaps are there, and we continue to lobby the relevant government authorities to be able to support us with the budget so that gradually we should be able to increase those numbers, because the demand is so massive, as you acknowledge, protecting our people for domestic consumption, but now helping our enterprises to be able to produce products that can actually compete through exports internationally. So there is a lot of work to do, and the key resource is manpower, which we need to invest in.
Wow, interesting. And in as far as funding, I understand absolutely, being a government body and funded by the government, there are targets that are unmet, like that employment gap. But then UNBS is one of those institutions that has also been able to utilize fully government funding. When you look at your reports entirely, you received, for example, 60 billion last year, and that is short of the 65 that actually was subscribed to. But you see that it was used almost 99 or 100%, close to that. How are you able to do this? Because accountability of government institutions has been one of the key debates in the different government institutions.
Yeah. Sure, I think we at the National Standards Body believe that we must lead by example. Remember, the name encompasses national standards. So what example do we have to demonstrate to other government departments and agencies? I think we are committed to excellence in service delivery, efficiency in service delivery, accountability and transparency issues in the resources we are given by partners and government. So we are committed to that. And again, it resonates with our mandate of being a national standards body. We should set the pace and lead by example. But on resources in particular, possibly for your information, the Bureau is privileged that our services also generate revenue. Actually, if you look at our contribution of revenue to the consolidated fund, we almost contribute beyond the money we get. So that's the opportunity we have. But because of the funding structure, this money should go to the consolidated fund and should be appropriated through the budget, through Parliament, back to us. Otherwise, if we are allowed to retain this money, I think we would have been able to get all the resources we need. So this is the engagement we are conducting with the government, that we are a worthy investment, because we give back every coin we invest through the revenue we generate from our services.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Livingston.
Much appreciated.
We're going to take a very short break. Ladies and gentlemen, you're still watching The Point, and I'm talking to Mr. Livingston Ebiru, who is the Executive Director of the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Now, when we return, a report back then in 2018 was released showing that 54% of our products locally produced are counterfeit. And that is, of course, showed as an improvement, according to the report, from 80% 5 years before. That's in around 2013. We want to know how far we have gone in terms of counterfeit product, bringing counterfeit products down from the market at the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. My name is Anthony. We return after this break.